This video is presented by EA Creator Network. Recruiting is the backbone of any college football program, and here in College Football 26, it's obviously no different. I'm going to teach you how to recruit to the best of your abilities in this game, in Dynasty mode, and it all starts with picking your head coach. And keep in mind, this is a work-in-progress version of the game. I've decided to pick a one-star school for this video to show you that you can still get really good players at one-star schools if you recruit effectively. But of course, things will get way easier as you upgrade your coach, as you upgrade your school, as you win more and more games. Winning is super important to recruiting. Of course, you can take over the active coach of that school, but for the purposes of this video, we are going to create one from scratch. My main method, at least in College Football 25, for my coach ended up being motivator into recruiter, and I think this year more than last year, it's especially important to do that because the recruiter coaching abilities prior to getting elite recruiter, which is the special unlock you get after securing 2 top 5 classes, it's so far down the line, it's not worth it. The main tree for recruiter is not going to help you recruit very much. I would recommend going with motivator and building up your school over time. And I'll just touch on that really briefly. It's also important to look at your main active perk. So when we choose motivator, we have 7 bonus XP whenever a player levels up. That can be a 65 going to a 66. We're going to get bonus XP for all of that. And I think that's really valuable for upgrading your coach. Recruiter just doesn't do a lot for me. Yes, it's nice to have one position. It does cost 8 skill points. You have quarterbacks to take less time to fully scout. I think it'll be a little bit cheaper if you were to actually pick recruiter, but increased starting interest doesn't really do a lot for me. Quarterback transfers are more interested, and increased chance to sway quarterbacks. That's just a lot of points for one position to get to anything that's, valuable, which I guess a sway could be. An increased chance to sway is good, but to me, recruiter is just really not going to be worth it. I'd rather get the bonus XP and upgrade my coach completely, and I think even this stuff is already nice. Like interest boost for quarterback recruits when a current QB hits a skill cap, and that goes for every single position. Yeah, I'd love an interest boost for recruiting. I feel like that's a better recruiting ability than what's actually in the recruiter for the first tier. Anyway, it is super important. Let's actually get into recruiting. It is super important from preseason week to set up your entire board and scout prospects. Depending on which school you start at, your hours in the top right are going to be very, very different. If you're at a one-star school like me, you may only have 450 hours in this preseason week, whereas if you're at an Ohio State or a Georgia, you might have like 1,000. But in my opinion, it is super, super important to set up your board from the very first week. Now, if you're a smaller school, I think utilizing your pipelines is going to be really good. You can see on this right side of the screen here, your pipeline influence level. You get a bonus in recruiting. The higher up that goes, I think it goes as high as 4. I think bronze is 1, silver's 2, gold is 3, and platinum is 4. But as you can see, we don't have any platinum pipelines at this point. Of course, using the right trigger, you can check out recommended and see everyone who the game thinks you should be going after, and they may already be interested. Of course, you can sort by any state. You can sort by interest using X or square on PlayStation to see all the players that are already interested in you, and you can use Y to also search for those guys and really weed it down, whether they're in the top 10 for interest, top 8, top 5, or even top 3 or top school. But when starting at a small school, typically, you're not going to have really good players that have you as their top school already. Although I will say top 1,000 really is not too bad for this center. Unfortunately, there are no 5 stars that have a pipeline above 1 for us. That would have been nice. But you can sort by pipeline still. And there should be some players that are ranked fairly high. Just because we're a 1-star school doesn't mean that we're unable to convince some of these 4 and 5 stars to come to our school. It's just going to be a lot more difficult. You really have to throw all your eggs into the top player basket, and you still might not even get them. So for you, it's a decision. You have to weigh this. Do you want to throw all your eggs in the 4 or 5 star basket and try to get 1 or 2 potential program changing players, or Do you want to try and build a well-balanced class and add, a bunch of 2 and 3 stars that may never end up getting all that good, but it'll bring up your entire team as opposed to just being potentially elite at only a couple of positions? And you're also risking that those guys potentially transfer if they outgrow your school, which is a thing. Their deal breaker, as you can see in the bottom right, can get upgraded over time, which is not going to work in favor of the small-time schools. But I would recommend going through, adding a bunch of different players. You can see in your team needs at the top of the screen now just what you need. So if you were to go by any state here, left trigger to sort by position, says we need to add 2 tight end targets. We don't necessarily have to, right? You can recruit however you see fit, but Willie Brummel is a good fit. He's a 4-star, which is, one of the top type of players you can get. He's top 100 in the nation, ranking wise. He's got a 3-star pipeline for us. This seems like a really, really good fit. And he's in state. He's not being recruited by top schools, as you can see in the bottom right. This might be an easy get for us. But I will iterate. If you're new, you don't need to just go in and say, okay, we've got, needs at outside linebacker, Mike, corner. Let's get 2 Mikes, 2 corners, a free safety, 5 outside linebackers, 2 defensive tackles. You can recruit however you see fit. Positions can be changed if that player fits into that type of role. You can just change them. And also, just because those are your top team needs doesn't mean they're what your top team needs actually are. Because how many times are you going to get 2 tight ends on the field? You can run 12 personnel, but it's not always necessary, right? So I would just say focus on getting better players over filling positional needs. In general, by the way, my strategy is to kind of avoid JUCO players. That means junior college. So this guy is not an incoming freshman. He's already a junior college sophomore. You just have a little bit less time to develop those guys. So typically I do avoid them, but you can still find good players that way. Just you're not going to have as much time to develop them and have them with your school. So they do kind of burn a spot that could go to a 4 or even 5-year player if you redshirt them. I also would say don't worry about kicker and punter until the offseason. You can find guys either in the portal or late. Kickers and punters just aren't really recruited like that. So don't waste your time. Just add 35 targets and make sure it's 35. And once you've added your board, this is the first thing you're going to want to do. You can scout, right? But you want to make sure that every single player that you want to go after has a scholarship offer during this week. That, in my opinion, is super important. Now, you can scout prior to that. You can do the math on this. So we know that offering a scholarship is 5 points, and we know that there are 35 players on the board. That means you need to keep 175 hours after scouting if you want to be able to offer scholarships to your entire class. Now, I do recommend going through and scouting players here. David Costello is a 5-star bust, maybe not somebody we want to go after, but I think it's important to not necessarily go scout all the way. Just kind of see if you can get a couple of the initial important attributes revealed right away. So we saw the throw power wasn't great. We saw the speed wasn't that great. We could probably just give up right away, take him off our board, and I would recommend just adding a different random player. For Henry Worley here, we see throw power is only an 86. I am curious about the speed since he's a dual threat type, and he's not very fast either. I'm not really interested in either of those quarterbacks. So we've scouted, we have everybody with a scholarship. You can exit recruiting now. You also can reorder your board if it makes it easier for you. And if you're playing offline by yourself in a dynasty, I would say use the schedule to your advantage. You can have big visit weeks. You don't want to be on the road for them because you can't bring any visitors in if you're at another team. After that first simulation, some players will already lock you out or tell you where they still rank you in their top schools. And you'll see other schools that have offered scholarships to those players. Like for Jabari Nadi, for example, USF and Florida Atlantic have both offered scholarships. So we might be in a little bit of a battle there. Same with Troy Welsh going head-to-head versus Tulane. So as you can see, we've simulated. We only have 350 hours. It's going to be very, very difficult to bring 5 stars in when we only have 350 hours to allocate. I will say a very good method can be going in and sorting by offers, you can potentially steal some players that have 0 offers. So make sure you're checking this out. Week 2, week 3, week 4, as early as possible. Clyde Vick might be a free type of recruit because he's a 3-star that's ranked top 550. That's pretty good. But Auburn, Duke, Georgia, Tennessee, UConn, they may have interest. They have not offered scholarships. You could potentially run away with this recruit if you wanted to. But this is typically the week where I decide, okay, which players will we have no chance to get? As you can see with the 5-star receiver Nate Reddick, the other team's bars are filling up pretty quickly. Like Michigan State has already almost pushed this into the next section here, going into that top 8 range. We would be locked out by that point. So we would have to either put on 50 right now to have some type of a chance, or we can say, hey, it's probably not going to happen. We're just going to take him off our board and potentially get somebody else. Like Alex Buck is a 5-star, but those bars are filling up a little bit more slowly compared to the other 5-stars. So I'm going to say Alex Buck, while being a 5-star, we may be able to bring him in to our 1-star school. Proximity to home may end up being your best friend, because what you want to ultimately end up doing is get down into the pitch section when that unlocks in the top 5, and you want to hard sell. Hard sell is the biggest way to sway recruits. Sending the house is really important early on, but as soon as you can hard sell, you'll want to be hard selling if your ratings are good enough. So this is the way it worked last year, and I think the way it works this year as well. Basically, each grade is a 1 to 12. F being a 1, A plus being a 12, and it scales throughout the entire thing. You want 3 of the hard sells to add up to 19, and then it makes sense to actually hard sell them. Otherwise, just send the house. I'll talk about that more when that's available. But for now, we can just send the house. Make sure you're using all of your hours every week, and the single best way to get anybody to commit to you is putting all of your hours on that player. It can be tempting to spread yourself thin. It's something I will do, but it's a gamble. If you really want a player, put all of your hours on that player. If you can do 50, put 50. If you have recruiter abilities that let you go up to 75 or 80, spend 75 or 80. But there also are some instances where, as you can see, Larry Gandy here has no offers. Except for us, obviously, but we're trying to fight into that group. We can probably put 25 on him and be fine, but we'll just throw on 25 for now. I know this isn't a great answer, but it's unfortunately the reality. You're going to learn more as you play, because a lot of this is just kind of a vibes thing. Like if we go over to tight end, I can see based on how quickly this is filling up that if I want Willie Brumell here, I'm probably gonna have to put 50 on him. Just kind of gauge how fast that bar is moving. You want to get into that top group prior to them going to the next stage. And you can see Kansas is not that far away from filling it up to the next stage. That's maybe only a week or 2 away. So we want to get into that race as quickly as possible. But then if you look at running back here, Georgia has no offer. Nobody has any offer. So we can throw 25 points on them, and I feel like we're going to be in a pretty good position. 10 points on Pierre Kuhn. We're going to be in a pretty good position. Same thing for Larry Gandy. But for Paul Gentry, we might have to throw 50 on him, or even, 25 plus the 10 to get up to 35, and that maybe will put us into the top mix. It's just kind of a vibes thing. You're going to learn more as you go. And I would say you're probably not going to end up playing 4 running backs simultaneously. Probably don't heavily recruit 4 running backs. You're going to have to make tough decisions and pick and choose. You can't have everybody. Also, I wouldn't mind just keeping players on your board that you're not actively recruiting. You can always take them off later. You don't need to bring in 35 players right now. Focus on maybe 5 or 10 that you definitely want to get, and then transition to adding more players throughout the year. Once you've allocated all of your hours, you can advance to the next week, and it's essentially rinse and repeat until you get into the next stages. But you need to make sure to check back in every week, because as players lock you out, and they will, if you put any points on them, you're going to get those hours back that you can then put onto other players. But I've said it before, I'll say it again, The name of the game is end these recruitments as quickly as possible. Throw all of your hours onto the players that you want. Try to get them committed right away. You can see that even though we're 1-star FIU, we've jumped into the top 6 even for this 5-star edge. This is a player that we could potentially get. And now that we only have 28 targets, I would recommend, again, going back in, sorting by offers, and adding some of these players in that are not being recruited, because those guys, they're not free per se, but it's a lot less of a battle. And if you like them, if you have available hours, you can, of course, put hours onto them, offer them scholarships. I don't really have any available hours right now, but adding those guys onto the board, not a bad idea. They will eventually get offers, but right now, not everyone's going to have an offer from every school. You might be able to steal a few. Like Christian McGooligan. Was he a corner? You can get McGooligan's Island. It's pretty good. I know Gilligan's Island is not really a topical reference. It's going to really resonate with my audience, but it is a pretty good one for those who do get it. So they have made a number of quality of life changes that have actually really helped with recruiting. You can see now on the left side, the interest going up. And when players add you to their top 5, you can see it's green now. Troy Welsh is into his top 5. So what does that mean? Well, if we want Troy Welsh, here's what we can do. We can schedule a visit. Rivalry games can be absolutely huge. Let me get some available hours here. This is a tough one because I've been putting in 50 hours to the defensive tackle Desmond Troop, but look at how quickly Alabama is filling up that bar. The Gators in the mix. Like, do I really want to be in a recruiting battle against Alabama? We do get the A+ proximity to home once we can eventually sell, but you can see program tradition that he values is an F. It's going to be tough to get him. So I'll free up those hours for now, and we can add these onto Troy Welsh if we want. So we're going head-to-head versus Tulane, and because he's close, it only cost 10 to schedule a visit here. We definitely want to get him in next week against FAU. So right now, we know he likes pro potential, and you can see if you back out to his deal breaker, conference prestige. So even though it's not popping up on the right side, we do know for sure 2 of 3 deal breakers. Now, if you were to go in, add action, this is where you want a hard sell. You can soft sell as well. It has a lesser penalty for getting it wrong, but a lesser bonus for getting it right. So you want to be hard selling. That has the biggest weight. So we know for a fact he likes conference prestige and pro potential. Let's go and see if we can match up those abilities. So this is one. Gamer has conference prestige, playing style, and pro potential. That's one possibility. And that may end up being the only possibility. Okay, it could be this one as well. Pro potential, conference prestige, and championship contender. Those are the only 2 options. So it could be 2. So we can soft sell this. C-, C-, D- if we want. This is essentially how it works, right? So F actually is 0, but each of these grades has an actual value associated with it. You want to get to the magic number of 19. Then it makes sense to hard sell. So let's do the math. We know we have a D-, a C-, and a C-. That's a 1 plus a 4 plus a 4. That does not get us nearly close enough to 19. On this particular player with that particular package, it does not make sense to hard sell or even soft sell. Now, if it ends up being gamer, C-, B, C-, it's a little bit better. C- is a 4, C- is a 4, B is 8. That adds up to 16. It still doesn't make sense. So for Troy Welsh, this is not somebody I would be selling on. I would just stick to contact friends and family, send the house, that type of deal. The only reason I would want to sell here is to learn what their actual final ability is, or final interest, motivation. So we could soft sell and hope that it's gamer, and then we would get a B in there with playstyle or whatever it ends up being, and then we could potentially sway. If you don't know how sway works, this is what it does. So sway, if successful, this will add your chosen ideal pitch as the recruit's ideal pitch for only your school. They won't get that for anybody else. It's just for you. So it is easier to sway when the part of the proposed pitch matches the recruit's ideal pitch. What does that mean? Well, if you have 2 of 3, so let's say pro potential, and we know conference prestige is one, right? If we were to go out and find pro potential, conference prestige, and then one that maybe features campus lifestyle, we would have the highest chance to sway him, but also get something where we're already really good. So we'd be looking for something where we can add proximity to home to get an A+, or something with campus lifestyle to get an A in there. But you can't really just choose something where you don't have a school interest for him already. Like if we didn't have pro potential in there, if it was something like grassroots traditionalist, it's 2 things he's not interested in. It's 3 things he's not interested in, and we're trying to get him to be interested in one of those, right? It just doesn't quite work like that. But if you can add in, you know, something you already have, pro potential, conference prestige, and then get something with a high grade in it, you've got the highest chance to sway, and then you just make something where you're good an interest of his. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm looking at it here. There's just not a ton of crossover. So in this particular interest or instance to me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to sway. You have a medium success rate if you're only doing 1. We want that high chance because it takes a week to do this and 30 hours. It's not cheap. We want to have the highest chance to actually make it work. And I just don't think it's worth it in this instance. Because once you get that sway, the whole point of swaying is to then hard sell with that interest now. So if there's not one that lines up to where you have 2 really good grades, it doesn't really make sense to do so. But it does make sense to get the visits going. So for Troy Welsh, you can see what type of bonus you get. It's going to be 2 against the same tier opponent, 3 against the same tier opponent in a rivalry game, but sometimes it's going to be nothing. Like, you don't want to bring these guys in on bye weeks typically. You'd love to get it versus a higher tier opponent if you can beat them, but of course, if you lose to them, it's really, really bad. You do not want to bring in recruits and then have them watch you lose. That, you can't have it happen. But for Troy Welsh, we think we can beat FAU. It's a rivalry game, so we get +3 with a win, although -3 with a loss. But we want to bring him in. We know he likes pro potential and conference prestige. They're both C-. It's not great, but it's what we know for a fact right now. And we want to bring him in next week. So we've got to just go with the C-. It's not great, but how can we actually get that to go up? Complimentary visits. So for everybody else in the top 5, we don't have any right now. You would want to bring those guys in if they qualify for complimentary visits. It goes by positions. So for a linebacker, a Sam, an outside linebacker, they will get a complimentary visit with Mike linebackers and defensive linemen, but you don't want to bring in another Sam linebacker. That would be a competitive visit, and you get a subtraction for that. I know it's a lot to take in. Hopefully you guys are following me okay. Remember, with scheduling visits, you can only do it a week in advance. Like, you can't do it during that same week. It has to be a week or more in advance. So you can get a player, if it's week 2, schedule them for a week 9 visit if they're in your top 5, but you can't have it be week 2 and schedule them on a week 2 visit. It doesn't work that way. They need a little bit of time to get over to campus. But you should be strategic with visits. I was just showing you, how you can do it. And it doesn't always have to be a complimentary visit, but try to get 4 recruits on campus at the same time. It adds a lot of value to that game. So you can definitely have those guys in the top 5 and not schedule a visit right away, right? So we're going to wait until we get more players in the top 5 and then aim for that week 6 UConn game as a big visit week. You can see Tulane starting to pull away on Troy Welsh a little bit, but we do have that week 3 visit. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you add 50 points, because it can be really valuable to get that plus the visit. Even though we're behind right now with a big win over FAU, we could jump into the lead. All right, so we're going to end up beating FAU here. I forced the win just so you can see what it looks like. Again, you want to win, but we're not going to be playing every game here. You do have bonuses for how much you beat the opponent by the way. So if you beat them close, you're not really going to get much of a bonus. If you beat them clearly, you get a decent bonus. And then if you blow them out, you get a massive bonus. So you want to beat them by 17. That is a blowout win, 17 plus, and that is the most amount of points you can get. It's also important to keep in mind your play style. So for this 4-star tight end, our play style is not quite good enough. You can check he's a vertical threat tight end. Just go to your school, sort by, using right trigger, sort by that position and that ability. You see he likes receptions. Well, we only have 12. So not great. As you can see, the visit is over. Tulane scheduled to week 14. Okay, the recruit is not going to hold out for that long. But as you can see with Troy Welsh, he actually likes conference prestige, play style, and pro potential. So our play style has changed from a B to an A+. Now it does probably make sense to hard sell. We have an A+ in the mix. So that's going to be a 12 for the A+, and then it's 4 and 4 for C-. So that adds up to 20. That is 19 or above. We absolutely want to hard sell, and then add more points on the back of that. We get the biggest bonus possible. You can see with the visit, we didn't get a big boost for meet alumni. Our grade at C- was not high enough, but we did get credit for the win over a same tier rivalry opponent. You can see our net total in the bottom right ends up being 5 out of a possible 10. It would have been much better if we had a higher motivation. You don't want to sell them on a C-, but I just wanted to schedule the visit so you guys can see what type of bonus you can get. We are now right there with Tulane. We're going to end up getting into a recruiting battle, and we'll see if we can win that. So this is a lot just for a 3-star, but I'm just trying to show you guys what's possible. We're going to end up, of course, trying to get Willie Brumell. Once we're locked out due to play style, we're in a bit of a tough spot. So we're going to take off those points. It's not going to do it for you. Take those points back, because you're not going to gain any ground when you're locked out at the moment. With that deal breaker, you're not fully locked out, just for the moment. It can change. But you definitely want to be sure to get those hours back, because they can be used elsewhere. It's also important to be mindful of your schedule, right? So if Willie Brumell here is close to making a decision, well, if we don't get him in against UConn, we have a bye in week 7. We don't really want to schedule a visit there. You can get complimentary visits, so you can get a little bit of a boost if you do it right, but you mostly want to schedule during games. We have nothing in week 8. We'd have to wait until week 9. For some of these recruits, that's going to be too late, so just be mindful of that. So we are going to get Brumell on a visit. We could potentially get a boost, somewhere else. If we waited and tried to get a quarterback with him or an offensive lineman or whatever his complimentary things are, it'd be quarterback for sure. But we're just going to try to get him in ASAP to try and end this recruitment as quickly as possible. We know he likes playing time because it's the check mark. We know he likes playing style because that's his deal breaker. So we're just going to find one that fits. We know it can't be this one, although this would be a really good sway. This would be a great time for a sway if he doesn't like proximity to home. Let's check it out. So this is a possibility. He may like coach stability, and we know playing style, playing time for sure. This is another possibility, play style, play time, pro potential. So there are actually quite a few options of what it could be. We might actually just want to use a sway off the rip. That might be the way we want to go about this, because we have a medium success rate, but it's actually a high success rate because he does like playing style. If we can get A, B-, A+, that would be fantastic. I'm going to try and sway Brumell, and then we can soft sell something like B-, A+, C- if it's pro potential. So we want to add up to 50. Those hours are done. Dude, the Brumell deal breaker, it's pissing me off. It's killing me. As you can see here, the sway actually did work. So that's great. So we have campus lifestyle unlocked now. That's what it can do. That's the high chance of the sway. Unfortunately, I can't actually recruit him right now because we're not throwing to tight ends enough, I guess. As you can see, Troy Welsh took us off the board. He committed to Tulane. Now, if his deal breaker was something like championship contender, where that can actually change, or even play style maybe, I would say keep him on the board because things could change. He could end up decommitting from Tulane and picking you, but in this case, the conference prestige is not going to change, so you might as well take him off the board. You've got no chance to secure that commitment. All right, so we're going to simulate this week. We have our hours allocated. We should beat UConn here, and you're going to see the results of that visit. Should have gone really, really well. You do see players at risk of transferring. That's going to be a big problem here in college football 26. But Brumell, man, the play style is just not there. We did get a decent boost because of the visit, but you're going to see for guys like Buck, we got a massive boost. Auburn, South Carolina, Florida State, these guys are trying to close in. But as you can see here, we did get quite a nice visit. We had a close game against the same tier opponent, so unfortunately not a big bonus over them, but we did get 4 for attending an A+ position meeting, plus 2 for the complimentary visits. That's a total of 8. So a big time bonus for the visit. Alex Buck really enjoyed himself, and he's going to jump into the top 3 here really, really soon. Just remember to always be checking, always hard selling when you can, when it makes sense to. Always trying to get these guys on campus with visits. Always changing how you're recruiting them because, again, it makes way more sense to hard sell than to send the house when the grades match up. And if you do everything right and continue to just do it, you're going to be in a pretty good position to land a lot of the players you've allocated heavy hours towards. Alex Buck, so close to committing to us over Auburn, South Carolina. Hopefully we're able to hold on. And there you have it. 5-star edge Alex Buck in year 1 at FIU has picked the Panthers. That's what we wanted, and that frees up 50 more hours. Obviously, we were also going after Terrell Speed and the tight end Brumell, and we got a little bit unlucky with Brumell and the deal breaker. We weren't going in and playing every game, but this would have been one that we probably could have brought in as well. 6'5", 201-pound vertical threat tight end. Very interesting. And we were close, but we lost out to FSU for Terrell Speed. But we're going after a lot of linebackers, so that really shouldn't be a problem. But again, that's a lot of hours to get back. That's why you want these guys to commit as soon as possible, because you get all those hours back. And you can use those on other players. You know, we're close to a 4-star running back, and we're close to a 3-star center. Like, we've unlocked recruiter here. That's great. And tactician, we're coach level 10. That's why that is now accessible to us. But if you go into coach abilities, again, there just still isn't really anything I'd want to buy in there right now. It's just scouting at first and then increase starting interest, which doesn't do anything for me right now. You can wait until the offseason and have that ready for season 2 if you want to use that. But for me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense right now. Of course, the better your school grades are, the easier it's going to be to recruit. But if you just continue at the same pace, doing all the right things, the recruits are going to end up committing, and they're just going to build off each other. They're going to keep flowing. There's a 3-star outside linebacker. Got another recruit. It's a 3-star cornerback. And remember, this is year 1 at a 1-star school. Getting a 3-star, pretty good. We'll take that. It is also important to note that you don't necessarily have to fill up the recruiting bar all the way to get these guys, because if you were just in the lead and you've allocated enough resources, if you're just in the lead in the final week, they'll just commit to you. Okay, National Signing Day. This is what it ends up looking like. We didn't get everybody we went after, and a lot of these guys at the bottom here didn't end up committing anywhere, which I don't even know what happens to them. I guess they just disappear. So maybe don't wait until the actual final week to start going after them, but maybe week 2 or week 3. We still did pretty well overall. A lot of 3-stars, some 4-stars in the mix. You can see top classes in here. We end up, did we sneak into the top 50? We were at 49. We had a 5-star, 3 4-stars, and 16 3-stars. A lot of these schools brought in some 2-stars. I just didn't really care to go after any of those guys. I don't think they're necessarily program difference makers. Colorado, congrats on your number 34 ranked class with 11 2-stars, 10 3-stars, 8 4-stars, and 0 5-stars. I mean, 8 4-stars is good, but they're in the Big 12. They're Colorado. They've got some significant advantages with brand exposure and things like that. At FIU, a 1-star school, we were able to bring in a couple of 4-stars and a 5-star and put this team in a better position. So I think that's a pretty exhaustive breakdown on how you want to recruit in College Football 26, in my opinion. Obviously, it gets easier at the upper echelon schools and, you know, any school that isn't a 1-star. I wanted to go bottom of the barrel here. I think a top 50 is pretty good in year one, and as you can see, transfers are getting upgraded. So it's going to be tough to use really small schools in this year's version of the game, or in College Football 26, because you get a lot of transfers that just don't want to be here anymore. You can have a really successful season, go 11-3, playing a pretty good bowl game against a pretty good opponent, and it won't matter. Guys are just going to transfer out on you. But that is how to recruit. I think we did pretty well. I think, you know, other than the actual intricacies, just remember, put as many hours on the guys that you want as possible. That's the best way to get them. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.